let's just pull back from, we were in the depth of Syria, but let's just pull back. Our presidents are getting ready to meet in Alaska, where, yes, the issue of Ukraine will be on the table, but more importantly, will be the strategic framework of U.S.-Russian relations. And a lot of people are talking about, because it's Alaska, we'll be talking about the Arctic and cooperation in the Arctic, etc. But Russia and the United States both have global reach. Syria is an example of where, if we don't work together, we have a clash of interests. And, you know, as you said, this is a battle, not the war. Yes, advantage America today. But we don't know, you know, there was a time in Afghanistan when we could say advantage America. But how did that end up? There was definitely a time in Iraq we could say advantage of America. How did that work out? Americans, our misadventures in the Middle East are of note. President Trump has campaigned on a promise to disengage America from entanglements. But the American people are conditioned for us to be entangled in this region for more than, 25 years since the attack on the World Trade Center, but I fought in the first Gulf War in 1991. And so America has been playing mischief in this region for, going over 35 years now. And we can even take it back to Ronald Reagan in Lebanon. We can go back to Roosevelt meeting with the Saud. We've been making mischief in the Middle East for some time now, and I think we're exhausted by it. Where we recognize that nothing good has come from it. All that comes home are dead bodies, higher taxes, money going away. So these conversations are absolutely essential because they're used to empower. In the United States, I have many discussions of this nature with fellow American analysts, but the best discussions are the ones I have with people who are on the ground, who see the truth. And that's why what we're doing here today is so valuable. So yes, what we're doing, I think, will definitely help shape public opinion in the United States, hopefully in a way that reinforces Donald Trump's belief that it's better to disengage militarily from the Middle East than double down on it. But gosh, I don't know. I just looked at the recent chronology of events. Last time I checked what the definition of disengagement was, it didn't include bombing Iran. No. And yet the United States has bombed Iran. So let's now shift to Iran for a moment. And again, I'm going to come in with a Russian connection, start with a Russian connection. Right now, if you take a look at the special military operation, the Russian military has achieved a great victory, not just on the ground. Everybody's focused on the ground. But to me, one of the greatest victories that has been achieved is the domination of the Ukrainian airspace, which required the suppression of the, not Ukrainian, but Ukrainian NATO integrated air defenses. The most sophisticated air defenses in the West were deployed to Ukraine. Today, they're destroyed. How? Because of the strategic campaign waged by Russia. But the campaign is arrows. What did those arrows constitute? And the weapon that has been dominant in taking down the Ukrainian air defense is the Shahed 136 derivative, the Geranium-2. I don't know, they have several variations of it now. This is seen by the United States as a decisive intervention by Iran on behalf of Russia. Is that the correct way of perceiving what happened? Tell us about how these drones that were made in Iran came to be in Russia playing such a decisive role.
I don't know how it took place. I don't know if that truly happened. I'm not going to comment on something I didn't see with my own eyes. I'm not a journalist. I should have been the witness, but I wasn't the witness. Definitely, Iran has what it has. And of course, they reached it through the process of reverse engineering. They copied, so they got that weapon somewhere. But American weapons is all over the world. Yes, in Ukraine has a concentration of huge, most and the newest NATO's weapons, but even if there, so what? What's the difference? We're not going to speak about where did Iran get the weapons and guns, and how come, being 46 years under sanctions, Iran has an opportunity to copy and to modernize newest American and not just American developments, whether it be drones or anti-tank weapons, rockets. Let me remind you, during the Iran-Iraqi war in the 80s, 88, not so long ago, Iran didn't produce even shoes or barbed wire. They didn't produce anything. The first rocket that came from Libya with Gaddafi's help was dropped in Iran because Gaddafi was pressured, and Iranians were able to copy it. And then they had a surplus in the air against Saddam Hussein. So Iranians are great guys, and we gotta acknowledge that. Concerning Trump and going back to negotiations that you mentioned, I have no illusions about goodwill of Mr. Trump, but I don't doubt he's healthy-minded himself and his team. The desire to get out from this entanglement is that Trump understands, as a businessman, first of all, it's not effective. It does not bring any money. Money is being spent, but we don't know what for. And America is not becoming greater because of that. Instead, the thing that he says, make America great again, that means America is not great anymore because we have the word again. So it was great, now something took place and it stopped being great, so Trump has to make it great again. So what took place is that Americans took effort during the last 10 years, actions that did not bring to positive results for American economics, politics, social development, whether it be Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, or Ukraine. It's useful wars that they did not give America anything but bankruptcy, really, and money, and a shame. I think that your vets were not happy when they took out the military from Afghanistan. They probably asked the question, what have we done there in 20 years? Of course they did. And today, the result of this fall was the unity of Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. So the Kissinger's bad dream is coming true, his nightmare, because he said you cannot make sure you don't let China and Russia get together. There's North Korea joined them, Ayatollah. And Trump understands, well, wait a minute, we got to save the date. So he is honest about finishing the Ukrainian conflict. But it's not because they feel sorry for Ukrainians or love Russians, because he understands. He knows if something continues on, then the hegemony would end. Then the global South would be united. And not united just like rhetorical basics or trading an economy, but on the basement of fight with the same enemy. And it's a very serious platform. And that's what United States truly scared of. And Trump understands it clear. But Trump is standing against, or some people are standing against Trump, that they're as maniacs, they don't want to change. The people that were stuck somewhere in 2000s, and they think that everything is solved by the power, but the time has changed. Your Democrats, they don't quite understand that time has changed, that Iran in 2025 is not Iran of 2000. Iran already has hypersonic weapons. Russia has it in China, but America doesn't have that. So Iran could be tomorrow a nuclear state if everything continues the way it is. If they continue all this chaos and aggression. China, look at China. China today is not China 20, 30 years ago. It's the first economy of the world. It's the most and strongest army. Russia is the same thing. The beginning of 2000, when we just were coming out of the crisis of the 90s, from our local wars and our trading and economical problems, Russia is a great, serious state. Look, you've seen Moscow, and outside Moscow, you have seen what we have reached. Sanctions could not turn the progress around. So Trump understands that, and Trump wants to have an agreement before it gets too late.
I don't disagree with your analysis, but let's again come back to Iran. I understand you can't talk about things you haven't seen, and I respect that. That's called journalistic integrity, by the way. But let's talk about what we did see. What we did see is that the Russian government and the Iranian government have entered into a strategic framework agreement that's premised on the concept of a north-south economic corridor, which is of strategic importance to both nations. We have seen that Iran has also initiated a new Silk Road with China. I think last month, the first train came out of Western China all the way across Central Asia, arriving in Iran. Two great economic corridors are being developed. Interestingly enough, when you spoke of Iran, you started naming nations, Russia, China, etc. But you're describing the global South. You're describing BRICS. And Iran is a member of BRICS. And so we have all this happening. Donald Trump has spoken in a way that indicates he fears BRICS. He's concerned about the economic power of BRICS. So now we come back to Iran. Iran, to me, is an essential element of BRICS, because of the role it plays in magnifying the economic potential of Russia and China. And now with these agreements, if you eliminate Iran, you can collapse BRICS. It's not a theory without merit. It appears that Donald Trump wants to eliminate Iran. This Israeli 12-day war that took place, it was initiated on the basis of, first of all, a betrayal by the United States to Iran by pretending to want to negotiate in good faith about the nuclear issue and lulling the Iranians into a false sense of complacency. And then Israel launches a surprise attack that incorporates decapitation of Iranian leadership, part of a concerted effort to collapse Iran, to eliminate the leadership and collapse Iran. It failed. But we come back to what I said. Some people feel that Russia betrayed Syria. There's many people that believe that because of the strategic security framework that had been signed by the Russians and the Iranians in January of this year, that Russia sort of stood by and did nothing while Iran was attacked by Israel and the United States, and that Iran is now vulnerable to decisive intervention by the United States. You mentioned earlier that this 12-day war you believe isn't over, that it's going to continue. And if it's going to continue, and we now fall into the same policy trap of Syria, will Russia fall asleep? Will Russia be diverted by other issues? Is Iran vulnerable to collapse like Syria?
No. In agreement, strategic agreement that you have mentioned, there is no point, there's no paragraph where Iran has to participate in our conflicts, or we must participate in their conflicts. We distance ourselves away from conflicts. But there are other paragraphs that compensate absence of the peace treaty like we have and China. That's about economy, trades, the special forces partnership, exchange of the experience, technologies, and etc. That's what we help them with, and they help us with. But we're already helping them, so that's noticeable. And the example of Russian and Ukrainian conflict and the example of a 12-day war, Iran and Israeli conflict. I don't know, but let's fantasize. Let's say supposedly it's not just by chance that Iranians have hypersonic weapon. It's a very serious thing. It's a very serious matter, but I'm not a military expert, but I have spoken to many, and they told me that the most difficult thing in this rockets is not just to make it to fly with a high, crazy speed. The most important thing is to create a material, a composite, that will not fall apart at this speed. Russia was able to reach that goal, and then whoop, suddenly Iran had the same thing, and the Hussites found the same material. So Yemen is a very rich country, and nobody knows what is on the bottom of their rocks, or even we could find the same rockets there too. That's a fantasy. Iran will not fall apart. I do hope, but I cannot be 100% assured, because the enemy is strong and they do everything for Iran to fall apart. If we speak about the 12-day war and Trump's attack, I don't agree with you. I think that at this time Trump was avoiding the conflict. At this time, yes, Trump was sucked into this conflict just like Iran. Neither Trump nor Iran, they didn't plan this conflict, and I want to make a conclusion that this total situation was foolish. Here they are, have an agreement. Trump makes a promise, and everything is open, and it happens what it happens. And I have a understanding that Trump was pressed. There was an inside fight, and there's a great factor of Israeli lobby, and Trump could not overcome it 100%, but at a certain point he could go around them formally. He got into the war formally, but in fact, he got out from that conflict without damaging Iran a certain serious damage, which Netanyahu was truly hoping for. So America waited many days, over a week. They were looking at everything was destroyed, the Israeli cities. Then in Iran, one of the militants, important militants, will say we took out the uranium. He speaks out publicly, and out of that, next day, Americans send their rockets and said, "Oh, okay, uranium is done. We're won." You know, something with the same thing with the al-Baghdadi. But, in my opinion, Trump overplayed here. He really won Israeli lobby. He really saved Israel, and he didn't get into the war. But we are thinking, since Israel didn't get what they wanted, which means Israel will continue or restart the military. They continue to attack terror acts. They think, just like Europeans and Democrats in the United States, that Trump is not forever. Trump is like it's a little bit off the norm. It's like a small fever that you have. It'll pass away, and he's gonna lose next Congress election, then election at the presidential election. Somebody will come from the Democratic Party, and everything will come back. So Trump is temporary, and Trump, I think that's my point of view. Maybe you don't agree with me. He sees a mission. He thinks that he is here to put down the basement for something new, Trumpism as alternative. And Republicans and Democrats, he will do everything possible that those ones, Kamala Harris, Biden, and others, would not join back. So will he be successful in that? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Democrats are right, that they will wait and come back, and they'll forget about Trump, and they do everything their own way. The time will show, but I think Trump will do all types of attempts on every direction on the Middle East and Russian-Ukrainian conflict and others, that not to allow internal enemies come back to power.
Well, thank you very much for that insight. Let's stay in the region, but now move more to an economic geopolitical factor. Again, Iran, we talked about the north-south economic corridor, the new Silk Road, but there's another economic pathway being pursued as we speak. Armenia and Azerbaijan have been struggling. You've reported from the Nagorno-Karabakh. And recently there's been efforts to bring together a peace. Donald Trump has played a central role in this. In fact, he just had the two leaders come to the United States and come into an agreement. And the key element of this agreement was solving the issue of how to link the Nakhchivan exclave with the main body of Azerbaijan, not because Azerbaijan wanted it, but because Turkey needs it to create its own economic corridor into Central Asia that would compete with the Chinese Silk Road and disrupt the Russian north-south economic corridor. The Zangezur corridor, they call it, is a 46-kilometer stretch of road that goes along the border between Azerbaijan, Armenia, and connects. And Donald Trump now has provided American security guarantees. They're unspecified. We don't know exactly what it means, but it appears that the United States has gone to a map where Russia is trying to draw an economic line from the north to the south, and China's trying to draw an economic line east to west, and Trump's come in and drawn a line across it to stop it. What is Donald Trump up to? I mean, what is the purpose of this? What is it going to succeed? Is it going to disrupt? What does Iran view? You just came from Iran. I would imagine that this represents something.
Iraq.
Oh, Iraq. Okay. But you know Iran. You're familiar with Iran.
Of course.
Is this a strategic threat to Iran, or is this just a lot of show and no substance?
It's a very complicated story. In my opinion, Trump doesn't understand what he does. With all the respect, and his advisors on the region, they're definitely competent, smart people, but I think everything is so raw that to speak about something we can't. It's a great PR company. It's another pint. I won even here. There's a calendar, and there's a check mark, Pakistan, check mark, Israeli, check mark, okay, Azerbaijan, check mark. But it's very superficial view, top view from the surface. We know that conflict is not gonna walk away just because two leaders met. They were fighting yesterday, and today they don't love each other. I think that Mr. Pashinyan and Ilham Khalid, this corridor that we have, the Trump's corridor, they called, it's a dangerous project, dangerous for us and Iran. And Trump is greatly interested in it, to pushing out the Russian interest and Iranian interest out of that, and closing himself in that region. Azerbaijan is ready. Azerbaijan think that they would turn the page over and they will write the new history. Independent Azerbaijan from Russia, though they were never dependent on Russia. It's just friendship, friendly, cooperative partnership, total understanding. Ilham Aliyev, he is he graduated from the MGIMO, but now they have problems. We understand it's not just out of blue. Just because a couple of bandits were arrested on the territory of Russia. They were not even the citizens of Azerbaijan. They were citizens of Russia, but nationality was from Azerbaijan. So for two, three bandits, the whole state is not going to get crazy and enter such sanctions. And you see where it turns into the open conflict of that open agreement of Baku and Kiev. For our partners, this topic is torn away from the post-Soviet. They always keep neutrality, and thank you for that. But they are pressured, though they are pressured. And here Mr. Aliyev decided to go all in. We understand that all are connected things. They are the links of the same chain, working with the United States, Zangezur corridor, confrontation with Iran on Azerbaijan. That's a long story, old story, that Israel feels itself at home in Azerbaijan. Everybody knows that. So this corridor is taken by Iranians as a threat to the national defense. It's a fact. And after they announced about this project, Iranians spoke at a high level and they said, we're not going to let it happen. We will take proactive actions. I don't know what they will do and what can they do or will they do, but there's a threat coming from Tehran. For Iranian, any rebordering, it's a red line. It's something that they will not stand with. Everybody said that, from small to big. Presidents of countries announced that ex and current, but Trump decided to go for this adventure, and nobody can say what would be the outcome. Hopefully there wouldn't be another conflict at the Caucasus, which we're really not interested in it, but our enemies are. So another fire on the side, so our attention would be dispersed. And I'm not against trading and cooperation. I'm not against alliance between Armenia and Azerbaijan, so they would be get along, forget about their claims. Someday it will happen between us and Ukrainians, but we understand that Americans are not thinking about that. They're trying to gather a certain profit out of that situation. The profit is to push out Russia and Iran. So I think we need to do something about it.
Well, I want to thank you. We've just done a brief tour de force of the region. And again, it's all the focus is on Alaska. All the focus is on Putin and Trump and a strategic U.S.-Russian relationship, but nowhere in the dialogue related to this summit meeting is a discussion about the Middle East. And yet, what we've discussed is strategic confrontation over Syria, strategic confrontation over Iran, and now a looming potential confrontation over the southern Caucasus between the United States and Russia. And if we're going to speak of bettering relations, we have to understand that you can't just take a snapshot of a single spot of the earth. You got to look at the whole thing. It's like being I'm not a medical professional, but, some people speak of holistic healing, meaning that, you don't just treat one thing, you treat the whole body. If the United States and Russia are to have a hope of having a better relationship, we have to treat the whole body, which means we have to start treating every region of the world with the respect that it deserves. I want to thank you very much for coming on today and helping guide our audience through this extraordinarily important but very difficult topic. Your expertise is greatly valued, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Wonderful conversation. This has been the Russia House. Thanks for tuning in. And again, I want to thank the National Unity Club for making this happen. I want to thank TAS, but more importantly, I want to thank my guest. Thank you very much.